Hello, I'm Graham Dale. The British government has recently published a treaty extending to about 1,000 pages, negotiated over several months with the European Union, Spain, and Gibraltar, ostensibly to deal with the post-Brexit arrangements between Gibraltar and the European Union. And although the treaty apparently was negotiated in detail as long ago as December 2025, the European Union is now pressing for it to be adopted and become fully operational no later than the 10th of April 2026. And I'll explain why a little later. But first, I think it's worthwhile to understand a little bit of the historic background of the relationship between Britain, Spain, and Gibraltar, going back about 500 years. The Iberian Peninsula was occupied by the Romans for 600 years, and then by the Visigoths for a further 300 years, and then by the Muslims for a further 700 years. And the Kingdom of Spain wasn't in fact formed until 1469 through the marriage of the crowns of Castile and Aragon. And Gibraltar didn't become part of Spain until 1501. It remained part of Spain for 212 years until 1713, when through the Treaty of Utrecht, which was signed on the conclusion of the War of Spanish Succession, sovereignty over Gibraltar was transferred from Spain to Britain. And so Britain has been sovereign in Gibraltar for over 313 years and counting, which is, 4 generations longer than Gibraltar was ever part of Spain. Now, what about this treaty of surrender, this treaty of capitulation? What's involved? Well, in a nutshell, Gibraltar becomes part of the European Union for all intents and purposes, because it becomes part of the customs union, the single market, and the Schengen Treaty area. And the reason why I think the EU and Spain want the treaty to become effective no later than the 10th of April 2026 is because that's the date when the new border arrangements for the entire European Union become into effect. And at the moment, 15,000 or so Spaniards cross the border between Spain and Gibraltar every day for employment purposes. And basically, they don't want these people to be inconvenienced if the treaty isn't effective by the 10th of April 2026, because they will have to go through the new border arrangements. What has Britain given away to enable Gibraltar to become part of the European Union? Well, again, in a nutshell, it's surrendered sovereignty, effectively sovereignty, over Gibraltar to Spain. And the reason I say this is quite straightforward. The border between Spain and the European Union and Gibraltar has been shrunk and reduced to the geographic area around the seaport and the airport. And control of this border has unequivocally been given to Spain. And I'll just read to you the direct quote from the agreement, which says the follows. For the purpose of this agreement, the competent authorities of the Kingdom of Spain shall perform any functions which are required to exercise border control, comprising border checks and border surveillance, as set out in the Schengen Borders Guide and related tasks under Union law. It further goes on to say that Spanish officers have the right to arrest, search, detain, interview, place under protection a person, or seize or search property, where it is justified in the course of border control carried out by the competent authorities of the Kingdom of Spain. And what this means is, let's say, that Spain has total control over the border, which means that any British subject wanting to travel to our sovereign territory of Gibraltar will have to go through the Spanish border police. And the Spanish border police will have the right to refuse access to a British subject to a British sovereign territory. And this will apply even to a British subject who wants to move to live in Gibraltar. Application to do so will have to be made to the Spanish authorities, and they will have the right to say no. They will have the right to veto. So Spain will determine whether or not a British subject can actually settle in a British sovereign territory. And this situation gets even worse because don't forget that the seaport and the airport are dual purpose. They were originally military bases, but of course are now also used for civilian purposes. And the treaty deals with this situation by giving Spain the right, and I quote again, to inspect the relevant aircraft, ships, infrastructure, and facilities in Gibraltar where risk to the Union's single market for goods has been identified. What this actually means is that the Spanish border guards will have authority to board Royal Navy ships and RAF planes should they feel that there is anything fishy going on which might affect the single market. It even gets worse than that because elsewhere in the treaty, Britain will have to notify the Spanish authorities should they wish to move weapons or munitions into our military bases on Gibraltar. And the Spanish authorities will have the right to inspect these, and they will have the right to know where they're being stored and the right of access to those storage areas. Now, if this isn't surrendering sovereignty over the territory to the Spanish, I don't know what is. But in the treaty, there's a little fig leaf for the boneless wonder Starmer to hide under. And it's Article 2 of the treaty, and again I'll quote it, and it says, "Nothing signed shall constitute the basis for any assertion or denial of sovereignty." Well, to me, that's a load of flim-flam, because it's clear that if Spain is given a strong foundation to effectively control Gibraltar, they will over time seek more and more. And they probably will go to some international court or other to seek a ruling that sovereignty, what remains of sovereignty, be transferred from Britain to Spain. And we could well end up with another Chagos humiliation. So to me, this is an extremely dangerous treaty, which Britain should not sign. But unfortunately, through the elective dictatorship of the Labour Party in Parliament, I fear that it will. Thank you.